rural and remote areas of the country in Nebraska. Critical access hospitals are very important. I continue to work on the 96-hour rule and trying to fix that. I think that stands in the way of efficient care in many of these facilities. Also, the physician supervision issue remains to be a problem, and I hear a lot from this or about this. Certainly also Nebraska hospitals, like their counterparts across the country and other states, continue to see reimbursement siphoned by the Bay State boondoggle. I know that you were a co-sponsor when you were on this committee to get rid of that. And so I've reintroduced a bill in this Congress and hoping that we can resolve that issue. But let me focus a little bit on human services, and certainly well within your portfolio at HHS. The home visiting program, referred to as MCV, the Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program, has been very successful. It's been very effective because it's evidence-based, and I'm anxious to continue to work on this. We introduced a bill already. As you know, it's a voluntary home visiting program that increases economic self-sufficiency and reduces abuse and neglect in at-risk families. And so the program, because it's evidence-based, I think has been successful. Are there other programs in the federal human services area right now which require taxpayer dollars be spent on an evidence-based basis? And would you be supportive of finding ways to make more of our federal poverty programs evidence-based? I think you touched a little bit on this in your opening testimony, but are there some quick things that you could point to that we can work on?
Yeah, this is incredibly important because, as I mentioned, we so often measure a success of a program by how much money goes into it in this town as opposed to whether or not it's actually accomplishing its goal. And so one of the things that we're trying to do at the department is there's so much intellectual knowledge and institutional knowledge within the department, but to charge folks to say, okay, if we were really measuring whether or not this program worked, what would we be measuring? Because it certainly wouldn't be how much money we put into it. It would be measuring whether or not people are aided, whether or not those moms are assisted in that early childhood care and the like. And so if we focus on those things that actually have metrics that determine whether or not the program's working, then we can figure out where we ought to be potentially putting more resources. But unless you focus on the outcomes, on the actual product that comes from the programs, you'll never get that, because then you're only left with how much money goes in. So the maternal and infant and early childhood home visiting programs are so incredibly important, and I'm really pleased to announce that in the budget we've increased the monies in that program, because it is evidence-based.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. You're recognized.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for being here.